Well, hi there, Andrew Bell with you again. I trust you made the best of an unusual Easter break. What was really noticeable here was the mood. Our city, and I would think beyond our city, people have moved through 3 stages over the past 3 weeks. The first stage was the shock and horror of the rapid application of restrictions and the realisation that something was happening in our own backyard. We saw huge numbers of redundancies with the likes of 20,000 Myer employees, 6,500 at Star Casino, and the news coverage of the massive queues at Centrelink. As contagion rates and deaths started to increase, people were in a high degree of shock and fear. The following week was the $130 billion JobKeeper program announcement, and it seemed to give people an element of hope that things would not be as bad as it first appeared. There was less news on the economic front as we saw how devastating the COVID-19 situation was occurring in places like New York, London and other countries. There was a sense that we were in a much better position than most. Now last week, over the Easter period in particular, it appeared that there was an acceptance that this was now how life was, for some time at least. And as Australians do, they tend to make the best of it and get on with life. People seem to have been able to adjust. A little bit of good humour started to surface. It was even wonderful to hear that the news on Tuesday that there was 0 new cases of COVID-19 identified here over the 4-day Easter break in Queensland, on the Gold Coast. In the midst of all of this, it's no surprise that a massive number of clients are reaching out for more and more information about how the effects of the economic shutdown will show up in the real estate market. In summary, the impact on real estate at the moment is that supply and demand are in a very balanced situation. There's been no flood of new properties coming onto the market for sale. In fact, it appears that most people have been so distracted by all that's happening in our world of restrictions that they haven't particularly paid a lot of attention to listing property for sale. Across the Ray White Group, which is of course the largest real estate group in Australasia, new listings have been declining for a couple of weeks. So there's been no immediate rush of properties coming on the market for sale, and stock is tightening in volume numbers. On the reverse, there remains a sizable number of people who want to buy. They've adapted very quickly to the new restrictions around inspecting properties. A couple of examples. Last Thursday, we conducted a private auction where only our staff were present, receiving and conveying bids to the auctioneer on behalf of the bidders. And in that, we had one property go to auction where we had 5 bidders on the property. On Easter Saturday, a commercial property at Bundaberg was sold unconditionally by 2 of our commercial team to a person who had never inspected the property physically, but was very comfortable buying it off a comprehensive video. Again, over the weekend, we conducted private inspections on another property we had just listed for sale. And over a 1.5 hour period, and spaced out each of those buyer inspections by 10 to 15 minutes, we had some 8 inspections, and the property subsequently sold. These are examples of how people have quickly adapted, but also about the degree of interest in property at present. One of our key indicators in determining the direction of the real estate market is to watch the supply and demand equation. If there are more buyers than sellers, you'll see prices firming. You'll see the competition amongst buyers, which always results in higher prices. Now, needless to say, the reverse will happen if there becomes more sellers than buyers. Over the past 3 weeks, we've been reaching out to all of our clients to check in on how life is for them and to make sure they're okay through this period of time, to see if there's anything we can do to assist them personally or help them if they need any maintenance or other work undertaken on their properties. In that process, there was no forward indication of any rash decisions with people needing to rush to get their property sold. Largely, there was calmness amongst those with properties. Although those with rental properties are of course significantly concerned about whether their income will be affected by non-rent payment or people paying lesser rent and so on. Now, my experience over the 40 plus years has shown that whenever there's a sudden shock to the economy, there's a knee-jerk reaction. That has already been seen, in part by the official figures on consumer confidence that saw the largest fall in consumer confidence in the history since records were first kept in 1967. No surprise that fear dominated and consumer confidence plummeted. But as always happens, as time passes, people can reassess, get more information, and drop some of the fear for realism. It was therefore no surprise that the same index also rose in just the last week by the largest increase it ever had. So while still well below the previous highs, the index is way off the initial massive decline. I think the other knee-jerk reaction in terms of real estate market is just a significant drop in activity altogether. As I touched on, there's significantly less listings coming on the market and significantly less buyers in total. And so whilst the balance is still healthy, the volume is way down. At present, there are no signs of any significant shift in pricing for real estate, although history tells us that that will change. And I will talk more about that in the weeks ahead. As many people have asked questions about the rental market, I'll also give you some really interesting information in that space as well. Australians, you should be proud of yourselves because we are handling all things COVID-19 exceptionally well as a nation. Other countries are looking to us as an encouraging example of a nation coming together, united in its approach to dealing with this once-in-a-lifetime event for us all. Let's keep hold of the big picture, stay united, and not let little issues start to create bickering and disharmony. We're all doing the best that we can. Speak to you next week.